Yeah. Subscribe to the channel. A man in a bad dress with sad eyes walked down the street without paying attention to anyone. Whistles, a generous silver blue, and deep wrinkles in the corners of the sad eyes red-facedly testified that many tests had to be taken on his part. The local homeless, in their own way, the wanderers at first glance, recognized a person with a past in him and left. And the behavior and eyes of the man said that he would hardly be kept in the flock of comrades by misfortune. He was years old at the time, but if you don't look closely, you can give all or more. Just not. The man did not smoke and had no problems with alcohol. He was distinguished by his impetuousness. He lived for nothing where he had to, and was dressed in a robe. Unlike people forced to live a wandering lifestyle, he was following the cleanliness of his clothes, which he washed in the river. An old leather cap was pushed over his eyes, which gave him a frightening look. It seemed that this man could not worry about anything. A man walking down the street saw a boy who was years old flying on a bike to the red light on the roadside, and a huge truck was rushing right at him. Compared to the car, the boy seemed to be just a bump. Well, what not to do about the man's reaction? Having grabbed the guy by the collar, Nikolai literally at the last moment grabbed the truck wheel. The bike was much less lucky. The driver who jumped out of the cab was screaming, "Idiot, are you tired of living? Where are the parents looking?" The boy was crying and barely crying, and his savior looked at the driver with such a look that he hurried back to the cabin. "And what about me? Who would I have to answer?" He grumbled. "Doesn't look after the children at all. How are you?" "Fine." The man asked the boy when the truck finally left. "Why are you flying under the wheels? You're sick of living, fool. Did you hear anything about the traffic rules at all?" "I heard." The boy smirked. "It's just that the bike is new, and I haven't figured out how to control it yet." "You're so clever with a new bike." The head of his savior shook his head. "But I'm afraid I'm not your assistant. This is—" "Thank you, uncle." The boy replied awkwardly. "Don't swear, only—" "I'll thank you for saving my life." "I wonder how you can thank me?" The wanderer smiled, but still wearing an expensive sports suit. Probably with pocket money, given by rich parents, he thought. "My father is a millionaire. Seriously, he will envy you if he finds out that you saved my life." "Come on." "The father has restaurants all over the city." The boy answered with pride. "And the main thing is in the center. Old story, you know? The whole city elite is having fun there. So let's go. He will give you money right now." "You say a restaurant?" The man said, thinking. "A restaurant is good." A bad light shone in his eyes. But the boy, it seems, did not notice it. Whether he really wanted to thank Nicholas, of course, not without the help of his father. The boy was persistent. "Maybe you are different?" Unexpectedly, the man felt sympathy for this boy. He is confident, speaks in a solid way. In short, he is such a small man, so solid but at the same time childless. Of course, he is good. He politely called out from the gap to the rich. "Well, let's go, let's go. By the way, my name is Vovka." The boy stretched his hand to his savior, and the one with a smile, having burned it, replied, "Nick, let's go." The passers-by were interested in a strange couple. A poor man with a heavy gaze and a well-dressed child with an expression of the face that was too independent for his age. But neither one nor the other noticed this. Everyone was immersed in their thoughts. One of the guards, looking at Nick, said, "Get out of here, you bum. Now you scare all the clients. Don't you see that this is a decent place?" "What to talk to him?" said another guard. "Now we will beat him up and all business." "No," said the boy. "This man is with me." The guards looked over. They really liked the unspeakable and decisive son of the owner. Vovchik has spoken more than once with security officers. They let the boy into their cell, but this time the master's son is wet, so wet. It is necessary to bring to a respectable establishment some bum. "I'll probably go," said Nick. "Well, be a kid, take care of yourself. Wait on the bench." The boy shook his head. The boy said, the boy did. "Hello, Dad," said Vova. "Ah, hello," with a smile answered the father. "What are the fates?" "Dad, I would like to talk to you about one person." Solidly, as an adult, the boy replied. "Wow." Sergei Petrovich was surprised. After listening to the son's story, he was grumpy. Vova was looking at his father in a different way. "Dad, are you angry because of the bike?" "No, why are you?" With an exaggerated carefree tone, Sergei Petrovich replied, "We will buy you a new bike." "No," my son exclaimed. "You better help that uncle, he's cool. He has a look like a hero of a militant." "It's a bum," the father laughed. "He doesn't look like the other bums. You look for yourself." "Oh no, son, I have a lot of work. Now I will give it to your savior governor. This will be my gratitude." "Well, think for yourself. What is money? Paper, which is available today, and tomorrow they are not. So I will not give him fish, but a duck." "What duck?" Vova didn't understand. "What a conversation. That's it, son, go. I'm really busy. Tell your wanderer to wait near the wardrobe and warn the guards." "Yes, sir." The boy was delighted. Having taken the son to the restaurant, the owner called the manager. "Boris, come to me, it's urgent." The manager arrived exactly 5 minutes later. "Boris, are you going down to the foyer now? There's a man sitting near the wardrobe, let's say, of a specific kind. Tell his cleaning staff to do some dirty work. Give out the uniform, instruct them, don't overwork yourself. But I don't want to teach you. And tomorrow let them start." "Got it, Sergei Petrovich." The manager bowed and went down. If he was surprised to see a homeless man, he didn't show off. In a few years of working in a restaurant, Boris already learned the owner does nothing for a living. I doubt that Petrovich takes a wanderer for a job of his own, but it doesn't concern him. Boris, even though he is the manager, is a person under the law. "Hello." He politely greeted the wanderer. "Hello." He nodded. "In general, Sergei Petrovich ordered to give you the cleaner's place." Sergei Petrovich musically asked Nick again. "Well, yes. The owner's name is Sergei Petrovich." When this name was mentioned, Nick literally hit the nail on the head. Isn't this the Sergei Petrovich he once knew? I don't really want to introduce myself to an old friend in such a pathetic way. More precisely, I really don't want to. Squeezing his heart, Nick agreed to take the cleaner's place. Although the money was hardly the last thing that interested him, he understood that there was nowhere to go without them. Because he cannot live a wandering life until the end of the century. Otherwise, he will simply end his days somewhere in the city dump, among the pile of garbage that no one needs. "Well, that's great," said the manager. "Now I will give you a uniform, and tomorrow you can start working. Your working day starts at. Just don't be late, the boss doesn't like it." Nick is pissed. "And by the way, you can live in the back. Only black food in the kitchen. The boss will notice, cut off his hand, not leaving the cash register." Petrovich has a short conversation. He is a serious man with criminal connections, so it's better not to get involved. Boris looked at Nika in a very meaningful way, but he didn't believe it. He just smiled at himself. "Well, let's say I'm not a gift either. Not worse than your boss. Only I went through such a school of life that your boss couldn't even dream of." Nick got to the attic, which served as his shelter for the last couple of months. Now he has dinner with buns and kefir, which he bought for the money earned on the market for the unloading of goods. By the way, the restaurant side dish is not the worst option. Autumn is coming, so the night out in the attic is a pleasure below average, and hot food is guaranteed. When thinking about hot food, Nick swallowed saliva. Sergei Petrovich. And, Sergei Petrovich is on the scene. Having woken up at a.m. without any alarm clock, Nick washed himself with bottled water and had breakfast with leftovers from yesterday's dinner. The attic was chosen by accident. Opposite the house where he stayed, there was a table with clock. To the restaurant where Nick had to work half an hour of walking. So at o'clock he set off on the road to fight for the place under the sun. Who deprived Nick of this very place? He arrived at, and the heartbroken cook suggested that he have breakfast. "I'm hungry," she said, sympathetically. A full-bodied, but in general quite attractive woman of the age of put a plate of eggplants sprinkled with greens, warm snack buns, and coffee with milk in front of him. Nicholas did not remember when he last ate hot, and also such a treat. Or did he think so? Thanks to the woman, Nick started his official duties. He was able to sweep the yard, eliminate traces of customers staying, and take waste to the garbage container. He had to work all day, but it didn't scare Nick at all. As you know, he did the work for the monkey man. However, he will make a man out of anyone. At first, everyone laughed at the new worker. Interesting, he at least guessed that it was possible to wash the toilet after him. The employees laughed. Gradually, the joke stopped. The colleagues were convinced that the new one can use not only the toilet, but also the dining instruments. But most importantly, they felt the inner strength in him. When Nikolai washed himself in the shower for the first time, provided for all employees, someone found him a very interesting man. And he's a good person. The waitress noticed Katia. Brutal one. So what's the matter? Jana hinted. Her partner is on a shift. Take it back. But he's clearly very dangerous. Yes, Katia agreed. Something like that comes from him. I don't even know how to say it. Some kind of fluids or something. But this is what attracts. Agree? There is such a thing. One of Andre's guards, seeing a mysterious employee in a t-shirt he bought in a secondhand store, wanted to joke around, saying, "Now all your girls will be there." But there were unexpected relief muscles under the t-shirt, so the guard decided to keep silent. Krepak. A. He was sitting on a red leather couch of an elite club for men, the Firebird, and he was looking at the dancer lazily. Good, you bastards, he thought. The man winked at the spectacular mulatto in a golden microscopic outfit, and she moved more actively. The owner of the restaurant Old Story liked it, and at first he was invited to his own restaurant. And there maybe the money will go to waste. The rest of the dancers also approached Mr. Belov. The figure skaters and ladies circled around the rich client, and that in turn was fun. Well, come on, good ones. Sergei Petrovich encouraged them, pulling up an expensive cognac. Please, please. And although Belov encouraged those who looked only at dinner in his restaurant, and if he gave money, then purely symbolic, the girls tried their best. Everything is simple. To have a dinner in the restaurant of the old fairy tale and spend a hot night with its owner among the club staff was considered wildly cool. This was a shame for Mr. Belov, so he was always the time of the day. Sergei Petrovich had fun barely on schedule. However, someone assured that it was so. On Mondays, Belova was often seen in the casino. On Tuesdays, he liked to visit the Priest of Love, and on Fridays, he dedicated a trip to this club. All the other days of the week, Sergei Petrovich was in saunas, whose administrators knew him as well as the club staff. The family and work for the owner of the restaurant were unknown. What? And he answered his wife, when she complained to Sergei that he was spending little time with them. I provide you with the full program. Your beauty salons, trips to resorts, prestigious clubs, section circles for your son, and other attributes of beautiful life. Is it bad? The most expensive wife only sighed heavily. As for the work, there was a time when Belov worked hard to make money, and he saw the money, as the saying goes, a little. So now he can do everything the other way around. What is there to be afraid of when there are specially trained people for this? In a month of work, the owner of the restaurant and the wanderer, who was appointed as a cleaner, never crossed the line. Moreover, Sergei Petrovich forgot to think about him. Women, cards, and power. This is his life principle. What kind of bum is he? He just didn't notice such people. And sometimes he lives to his own pleasure, cheating his wife on the right and left. And she, I'll say, is a beauty. Night on the fly goes to the sauna and casino. But he has a son, Nick noticed. What example does he give him? He doesn't give a damn about his son either. 3 years ago, his wife was in the hospital, so he brought the little boy here with him. He has fun in the office with another snob, and the boy decided to swim in the fountain in the fall. He personally caught him. Nikolai already knew that Sergei Petrovich Belov had been in the restaurant network for more than a year, located in different areas of the city. The boss started his business with a small restaurant owner who was in the suburbs. The most interesting thing is that he started not alone, said another guard, Yuri. There was another companion. It seems like the guy was an orphan. They say a bright head. The whole business is due to that companion. He developed and fixed the business. And where is this companion now? Nikolai was interested. Where did he disappear? He shook Yuri's shoulders. It was about years ago. I didn't work with him then. It seems that he got a term for some kind of fraud and sat down. And maybe Petrovich sentenced him to death. Nick cooled down. The more information he got from his colleagues, the less he liked the situation. But none of the restaurant staff could have imagined that the person who got the term for some kind of fraud was him, Nick. But he didn't do any fraud. He didn't sleep. The man decided to watch TV. He looked at the screen, but he didn't see what was going on. Nikolai Malyshev was reminded of this. Seryoga Belov and Koka Malyshev grew up in the same orphanage. The teachers noticed that they were different. And it was true. Sergei was a cunning and calculating person. They say about such people that they are in their right mind. Kolya was an open-minded person, and as people who later knew him by the restaurant, they noticed him as a bright-headed person. Nevertheless, these two have always been together everywhere. Someone noted that Sergei, like a fish, stuck and pulled Kolya. Nature gave Nicholas a mathematical mind. In addition, he was interested in computers since childhood. He did not need to learn mathematical formulas, and the boring tasks in geometry and physics were exciting puzzles for Kolya Malyshev. The more difficult, the more interesting. Kolya participated in the City Olympics in connection with what was the pride of the orphanage. "The guy will go far," said the math teacher Oleg Dmitrievich. "Yes, this is God," sighed the sound. "Something is wrong." The mathematician was surprised. "Everything happens," Irina Petrovna answered in a slant. "For example, friends with whom enemies are not needed. There was no need to do the laundry. Why? When there is a friend with a bright head. I wrote it down, and everything is fine." After graduation from the orphanage, Sergei suggested, "Listen, let's start a business." "What business?" Nikolai asked skeptically. "And then? We have no connections, no knowledge in this area." "Well, you can always make money with the sages, and connections and knowledge are a matter of life. Remember how many legendary rich people started from scratch? Rockefeller, Bill Gates. The examples are really convincing." "So," Kolya answered. "Also right. The guys unloaded wagons and goods in the stores, worked on the market, on the construction sites, and saved the right amount, as it seemed to the orphanages, to the sum. It's not enough. Find a room, put it in a little boy's room, and finally start working on yourself." Future companions started looking for a room. It took only a month to find a suitable option. It was a terrible building outside the city. It cost a lot of money, so it was perfect for the start of the restaurant business. After trading, the guys bought it for a penny. So there was still money left on the tables, chairs, and dishes. Of course, there was no money for the designer, so I had to work on my own, and they bypassed all the commission shops and flea markets. And in the end, they acquired kerosene lamps, deer horns, heavy cast iron, clock with cuckoo, and other strange things of the era of the Tsar of the Peas. This is how the idea of forming a restaurant was born. By the way, the current restaurant, the Old Fairy, is maintained in a vintage style. Only now it was a designer's work that cost a lot of money. Surprisingly, Sergei and Nikolai's Western restaurant became popular. By today's standards, it was rather a cafe, but young, ambitious, and energetic guys knew it was the first step on the way to wealth and success. And Nikolai and Sergei did not just climb this step, but also confidently stood on it. Nikolai was engaged in accounting, reporting, and advertising. Sergei was, as he proudly called himself, a strategist. "My business is to develop tactics and necessary acquaintances," he said. "Your thing is to move your brains." Nikolai was able to move them, but he had no doubts about the necessary acquaintances that the companion had. Once, in a restaurant of a slippery type with an unguarded face, Nikolai expressed doubts in his orderliness. However, the companion's friend only laughed. "Who was talking about communication? But didn't you think that we would be immediately cooperated with by smart guys in Gucci's costumes?" No, Nikolai didn't think so. But it was this man who didn't inspire him to trust him. "Come on, everything will be fine," said Sergei, clapping his head on his shoulder, and added seriously, "Remember, it's your business to move your brains and mine." And the companion was silent for a long time. And then he laughed again. It is necessary to rely on in order to hide a slight threat, which was not necessarily pronounced in Sergei's voice. What can I say? The owners of the restaurant were engaged not only in legal affairs. Yes, it happened, entering a big business and not getting involved. But no, it doesn't happen. So Nikolai realized the right of a friend. Time passed, and the restaurant was visited by constant customers. The establishment began to bring the owners decent income. The companions began to think about expanding the network. And then, Kolya fell in love. His choice became the modest and beautiful Veronica. On that memorable day, a beautiful brunette with amazing blue eyes was sitting in the restaurant, and as Nikolai seemed, was somewhat upset. The girl ordered pistachio ice cream, but as she touched the cold dessert, she ate only a couple of spoons. The ice cream almost melted, but it didn't bother the beauty. From her bag lying on the next chair, a phone call was heard. The black-haired beauty looked at the display, got dizzy, and called. Kolya never believed in love at first sight, but now, with surprise, he felt how he was being covered with his head. The plan of the... After a minute's silence, Sergei said, "So beautiful and so sad. Does it really happen?" "As you can see," she answered in the same indifferent tone. The girl clearly did not want to talk to anyone, and Nikolai did not impose himself. Finished drinking coffee and went outside. Half an hour later, Kolya returned with a bouquet of small roses and a small white snow plush bear with an elegant bow in the tone of flowers. "Beautiful flowers for a beautiful girl," he said with a smile. "If they can't cheer you up, I'll jump off the roof now." Veronica smiled slightly. "You were so worried about my mood, but I can't see how the girls are sad." He held Kola in his arms and added, "Well, not all of them, of course, only the most beautiful." "So what made the beautiful lady sad?" "Personal," she replied, unwillingly repeating his gesture. "So it's unlikely that you should jump off the roof." "Someone offended you? Then I'll find him right now and call for a duel." "Don't be a scoundrel." The beauty sighed. Nikolai, gently skipping this phrase by the ears, asked, "What is your name?" "If not a secret, of course." "Veronica." "Well, I'm Nikolai. Let's be friends. How do you like the restaurant?" "Quite. Good cuisine, acceptable prices. What else does the client need?" "This is yes," agreed Kolya, remembering how Sergei was grumbling about the fact that prices should be raised. "You know, Veronica, the restaurant closes in half an hour. Maybe you should be brought in? This is convenient. Which way do you want?" "Sportmanesha district." Nikolai had to go in a completely different direction, but he happily answered, "Oh, how wonderful. I'm on my way." Kolya gallantly opened the door to her in his old Toyota, and they drove. On the way, the young people talked. Obviously, Veronica wanted to speak out, so she told Kolya that she had found her beloved in bed with her best friend. He preferred to keep silent. "Veronica," said Kolya, "when did they come to the house where the girl lived? Perhaps you're not in time now, but do you want to have dinner with me in the same restaurant tomorrow?" "Oh, no, I can't tomorrow, unfortunately," she answered. "Well, the day after tomorrow?" "Perhaps," she answered, thinking, "the day after tomorrow will suit me well." Nikolai was delighted as a child. The restaurant hall was decorated with flowers and touching balls of delicate pastel tones. Kolya watched the records and figured out what music to choose for a romantic evening. "Yes, you are a romantic," Sergei noticed when the companion dedicated his plans. "Even curiously, what kind of girl are you trying so hard for?" "God willing, we will walk on my wedding," Nikolai assured him. Even so, the girl is just gorgeous, but at the same time, not so much unbreakable. There are few such girls now." "Well, I'm glad for you, my friend. Honestly glad." Sergei himself changed the girl like gloves. "I don't see the point in stopping at one when there are so many beauties around for every taste," he said. Well, Nikolai preferred to find the very real one. Although, what is the sin of hiding? There were also parties in the sauna with girls and dubious acquaintances in nightclubs. Only Kolya, unlike his friend and business partner, after such entertainment, had a dirty feeling in his soul. Watching the next night guest in the morning, Nikolai always with impatience waited for her to leave. The ladies so much as to leave their phone number. However, Kolya, honestly writing to the contact, and immediately after leaving, he removed him from his random girlfriend. Several such meetings were enough for the guy to understand that no, it's not for him. And Kolya stopped meeting in clubs, and during the saunas, he preferred to be surrounded by the society of beautiful ladies. It's better if he waits for his only one, and it seems that Nikolai met her. Kolya and Veronica sat down until midnight. "Oh, the restaurant will close soon," she exclaimed. "It won't close." Nikolai nodded with a smile. "This is my restaurant." "Yours? You're the owner of this restaurant?" Veronica asked suspiciously. "Yeah, what? Doesn't look like it?" "No, it's not about that. It's just that you're still so young. At this age, they're just getting up on their feet. This is not about me. I and my companion grew up in an orphanage, so we had no time to wait. As soon as we were released, we started to act. Well, what can I say? Well done." So began Roman, Kolya, and Veronica. Next to this girl, Nikolai wanted to be better cleaner, kinder, honest. Once Nika told her lover, "You need to get education. But you understand that business is sometimes not permanent." "Yes, I remember you like that," Kolya exclaimed. Here she nodded. "But you can't be afraid of the typhoon all your life and rely on the ox." "No, no kidding. Education is always at a price. For example, the Faculty of Economics. At least for a start. What if life turns out so that you have to look for a new job?" "Actually, she's right," thought Nikolai, and decided to go for the economic one. The friend was grumbling that Veronica was spinning the wheel as she wanted. But why would she spin it right away? He disagreed. "I'm just listening to my beloved girl. By the way, my Nika is not only beautiful but also smart. And the family is, of course. Did you notice that we even have almost the same names?" Sergei was madly laughing, and Nikolai was laughing. "Well, I'm Nick, and she's Nika." A friend and business partner just shook his head. The luxurious wedding became a logical conclusion of this beautiful novel. Sergei became a witness from the side of the groom. Otherwise, it could not have been. The first time the staff of the restaurant employees, who were filled with friends, was minimal. From the day the establishment was opened, the partners were bartenders, waiters, administrators, guards, and managers in one person. Over time, 2 bartenders and as many waiters were hired. But since the restaurant flourished without any interest, the thoughts about the next stage began to gain real features. The long-awaited expansion became a real holiday, as well as the beginning of a new story with a duration of years. "I think I should head the restaurant," said Sergei once. "Why not me? And then, what does not suit you in the possession of drinks?" The partner was interested. Nikolai asked calmly, but inside him everything was clattering. It was thanks to him that the restaurant was, let's say, a civilized place. If it weren't for Nikolai, the restaurant, which after the expansion moved to a decent district, would have long been the refuge of all the bandits in the city. "Yes, it does not suit everyone," he answered. "I went to the right people, and you?" "And I was engaged in documentation, organizing questions, creating advertising, and reputation." Nikolai decisively interrupted him. "Since it's about that, I have to head the restaurant." "What the hell is reputation?" Sergei burst into tears. "Money. Here it is, our reputation. They rule the world. It turns out you provided us with money, and I sat down, right? Don't be too hard on me, but understand the trick. A person who is tough and decisive should be in charge of the restaurant, but you don't have that. Well, don't be dirty. We just probably show these qualities in different ways." "Maybe so." He slowed down Sergei's speed and added a more fitting tone. "In any case, this question needs to be thought through well. But such things are not solved in 1 or 2 times." Nikolai had nothing to say about this. "Let's talk about it tomorrow," the companion continued, on the fresh head. "Now we will not agree on anything. It's too late. I'm tired like a dog." "As you say," Kolya agreed, who was as tired as a dog. The next day, when Nikolai came to work, tax officers and competent authorities gathered in the restaurant. "What's going on?" he asked. "Nikolai Nikolaevich Malashev?" His man asked with a harsh look. "Yes, it's me. What do I owe you?" "You are responsible for the accounting." "From the accounting and other documentation," he nodded. His mobile phone rang. "Excuse me, can I answer? My wife is calling." "Yes, of course." "Kolya, I need to tell you something." Veronica spoke in a mysterious voice. "Nika, honey, let me call you back later, okay? I have people now." "So what's the matter?" He turned to the interlocutor. "And the thing is that you, dear Nikolai Nikolaevich, you are accused of illegally removing funds from accounts. In other words, theft as well as deals with fake people, which is also theft." "What the hell? This is some kind of mistake." He called out and looked at Sergei. "Of course, it's a mistake," said he. "Don't worry, they'll figure it out. I'll find a lawyer and all that. Your knowledge of computer programs quite allows you to turn over money transfer operations. Well, to organize a fake deal for such a smart guy like you is a bad deal." "Yeah, and that's how stupidly to set up," said Nikolai. "Well, there is a gap in the old age." The interlocutor held out his hands. "On behalf of the Russian Federation, I must admit that the guilty person, before Nikolai's awareness, was being told the phrase. He felt like he was in a dream, and it would be good if... But the last phrase made him finally wake up. He is sentenced to years in prison. After the sentence was announced, his wife fainted. "Veronica!" he shouted, instinctively giving in to his wife. "Someone loses, and someone finds," thought Sergei P. Belov, lying in a chaise longue next to the pool. "And he is not used to losing, only to find." Everyone who knows him well will say that Sergei Belov will not stop for the sake of achieving goals. When he started making the first steps in business, unlike Coca, there can be no friends, relatives, and other sentimental nonsense here. There are only the right people. And now he is the owner of the restaurant chain, a millionaire, lives by singing, the whole world is at his feet. Sergei has a beautiful wife, a smart son, all the entertainment that is only available to the person of his position. All the affairs of each restaurant of Mr. Belov were carried out by the manager, a man with a higher education and experience of working in the restaurant business. Each manager was responsible exclusively for the establishment that was confident to him, so people were putting their best effort. "I keep them all where I keep them," Belov boasted to a business friend of his, pressing a strong fist. Sergei Petrovich periodically controlled the managers of his restaurants and was satisfied with their work. The profit grew, which means that everything is going as it should. It would seem that they would control the managers and not follow up on the fact that the rest of the staff did their duties properly. But in recent times, the indicators have deteriorated, and this is in the old fairy tale that even flourished in the crisis. The causes of the fall in profits could be anything. Again, similar establishments that automatically hit the competition's rank, and the crisis could still hit Mr. Belov's pocket. Well, he will definitely beat the competition, and if someone directly decided to screw him up, oh, they don't envy him, Sergei Petrovich. You can't beat the crisis, but what prevents you from organizing some anti-crisis action? However, an experienced entrepreneur could not help but understand. As experience showed, it is much easier to find out. Someone is stealing, and the owner of the restaurant decided to install a camera of video surveillance in all the restaurants on the network. One day, while watching the recording, Sergei Petrovich saw some homeless person. What kind of wanderer is this? And he thought about the task. And then he remembered that a month ago, on the request of Vovchik, he took a cleaner to work. According to the Sun, he was a homeless person. Yes, exactly, the main restaurant. And everything would be fine. Only the profile of the wanderer seemed familiar to him. All the homeless people look alike. In the end, he decided. Sergei Petrovich gathered in Greece. Business trip, he explained to his wife, although she did not ask. Belova's spouses have long existed autonomously, and it cannot be said that one of them was upset. And entertainment, and a long time ago, everyone had their own. Sergei flew abroad. A couple of days later, Vova came to his mother. "Mom," the boy said, "let's go to Dad's restaurant." "Well, he's in Greece now, and we, as the owners, will control the work." "Wow, my wonderful miracle." Mother laughed. "Yes, every restaurant has a manager working, so we will control them, as Dad does." The wife of one of the most successful businessmen in the city adored her son and was proud that Vovka was growing up in a smart way. However, there is someone to blame. You can't refuse him logically. And Mrs. Belova has been sitting at home for a while now. "Okay, I persuaded her." She laughed. Nikolai swept the yard for the customers who celebrated the wedding in the restaurant and sprinkled the yard with roses, rice, and coins. After that, he went to the backyard. In the hall, he saw a wolf. The boy talked to the guard about something lively. "Hello, Nick." He was happy to see Nikolai and stretched his hand. "Well, hello if you're not kidding." Nikolai answered with a shake and asked, "How is life?" "It's okay, but slowly. Let's go play chess with Yura." "Well done," he said. "Do you want to join?" Yuri suggested. "I can't yet, unfortunately," answered Nicholas and walked on, not suspecting what meeting awaits him in some 5 minutes. "Nico!" Nicholas shouted, feeling how his heart was about to jump out of his chest. As if hypnotized, Nicholas approached Veronica and hugged her. The woman subconsciously looked at the attractive man in a t-shirt and barely lost her feelings. And it's a miracle that she didn't lose it. After all, the first husband who died in the colony many years ago stood before Veronica. In any case, she thought so. "Kolya, are you alive? And why should I have died and the one who walked away? Where can we talk?" Veronica looked at her ex-husband, and the events of 10 years ago flashed before her eyes like one moment. And she told him about it more than once. And the thing is not that Sergei was constantly ferociously and completely shamelessly looking at her. An ordinary woman who saw another trophy. Although if you think about it well, it says a lot. If a person is able to look at his wife like that, who knows what to expect from him? Veronica never told Kolya what looks Mr. Belov gives her. But to preface the husband, why not? Kolya, maybe you should buy a share and work the way you think is necessary? She said something, but she didn't trust Sergei. And Nikolai somehow said that he was not delighted with the people he needed, whom he found a companion, just like his style of work. I thought about it, but exchange is very troublesome and not cheap. And then the clientele is overworked. The question will definitely arise, who to look for a new room. And suspecting that it was me. Yes, Veronica was in a bad mood. She understood that no one would ever leave Sergei, and no wonder he would take her husband in his hands. On that bad day, Nikolai came home in a ring. But about what had happened, he told his wife about the conversation with Sergei. Veronica already had a bad feeling then, and the next day, Kolya was arrested. Veronica was lying under the blanket and looking at the ceiling indifferently. The cup of tea prepared by the caring mother remained untouched. I can't believe it, the girl whispered, and her eyes filled with tears. No, I just can't believe it. Yes, it's been known for a long time. The mother cut off. Where is the business? There is the criminal. You live like on an uninhabited island. God forbid. Nikolai is not like that. He tried to work honestly, said Veronica. Apparently he tried hard. Olga Petrovna sighed. Frankly speaking, she herself did not want to believe that her son-in-law was capable of such a thing. But the facts are a simple thing. Anika is now unable to objectively assess the situation. Love, as you know, is blind. Mom, I'm sorry, but I want to be alone. I'm tired, said the daughter. I really want to sleep. By the way, did you tell him? No, I didn't have time. I fell into a daze. But when I woke up, Kolya was already taken away. Olga Petrovna left, and Veronica fell asleep. But she couldn't sleep. Through the sleep, a young woman heard a phone call from Sergei Belov. But he was not enough now. However, he can be useful. For some reason, Veronica was not allowed to see Nikolai. But Sergei wanted him to, at any time. He said that he could see Kolya as a business partner, who is on business. Hello, Veronica? Sergei said hello with sympathy in his voice. Hello. I would like to meet you. But I will meet Kolya tomorrow. Can you tell me something? It's just uncomfortable on the phone. Okay, come. That's what she said in a colorless voice. I'll be in minutes. Is there really nothing you can do? Veronica asked in despair. Sergei shook his head. It seems not. The lawyer turned out to be powerless. But don't think I won't give up. I will do everything possible and impossible. Friendship is sacred to me. Thank you, Serioza. Veronica said with a hearty sigh, and in the rush of gratitude kissed him in the cheek. Not yet. He was confused. Nikolai called out in amazement. That's what Sergei told me, said the former wife. You, as a wife, should have been let in first. And that Nikolai remembered his conversation with the one he considered his friend. But, obviously, he was mistaken. Veronica is now in a very bad state, said Sergei when the friends met. I think she shouldn't see you now. Then, when she comes back, you will have a date, but I don't even know how to tell you. Tell me how it is. She doesn't want to see you. Well, I can understand, but I beg you, please take care of her. You don't have to worry about it. Nika didn't write him any lines. Then Nikolai thought that his ex-wife had decided to kick him out of his life, the criminal. There was no need to ask where she got this information from. After all, Nikolai was really tried to kill. But then he thought it was an accident. Having reported the death of his wife, Sergei offered her to marry him. Well, what are you going to do? Reasonably asked a friend and business partner of the husband. You won't have time to look at how to give birth to you. I'll give the baby a surname, and I'll take the baby as a relative. As a relative? Nikolai spoke slowly. Yes, Kolya, when you were condemned, I was pregnant. As I understand, Sergei didn't tell you about it. The former husband only waved his hand and cried. But Veronica did not notice this. She remembered. Sergei, I have one delicate request for you. she said on the day when her husband's companion came to her. Veronica had doubts until the last moment whether it was worth entrusting such a thing to Sergei. But lately he has behaved like a real friend and like a gentleman. Maybe those who say that friends are in trouble are right. I'm listening to you, Nika. Sergei softly said, You know, I will fulfill any of your requests. Tell Kolya that we will have a child, and that I really love him. Okay, Veronica, I'll tell him everything. After waking up from the memories, Veronica understood with horror that her ex-husband had hit her in the shoulder. Kolya, are you out of your mind? She whispered in fear. Not now. God forbid Sergei sees me. So let me not get you and me. Be patient, my dear. I will not stay with Sergei anymore. As soon as he returns from Greece, I will divorce him. And so all the puzzles were solved. But Nikolai believed Sergei as himself. Yes, his methods of working were specific. But Nikolai was sure that his friend would not cause him harm. How naive he turned out to be, however. Yes, my dear, wiping away the tears, Nikolai said, I love you. I also, said Veronica, and now it's time for me. You accidentally did not see Vovchik. Our son, smiled Nikolai, now in the security room. I see, she smiled. She gets the guards. The last customers left the restaurant, and Nikolai hurried to finish his work. He saw his ex-wife and son get into the car, and the amazing warmth spread all over his body. While falling asleep, Nikolai again plunged into his thoughts. After sitting for years, which was intended for another person, he was able to survive and go out. Yes, Nikolai has no home, no family, but now he was convinced that, what is the question of time? There was a lot of time in his zone just to think. Don't you think that your companion could set you up? Asked the owl, the thief in the law. How could you not want to believe that? Said Nicholas. In one orphanage they grew, started from the bottom together. Well, but you never know what to expect from someone. Look, you can break through anything. That his ex-wife married Sergei. He asked his friend to take care of him. With a bitter irony, he thought. So, he took care of him. How? Although here, by and large, there is nothing to be offended about. As he found out, Sergei raised his son, and the boy didn't need anything. But in essence, Vova never needed him. Sergei needed business and Veronica. That's how he lived as a wanderer, without attracting attention, he thought. And it is not known how long it would continue, if not for the case with Vovka, my son. It was fate itself that led us. Veronica met her husband at the airport. Today she will tell Sergei that they are leaving him, and whatever happens. There was a matter. Veronica married him out of gratitude. Only there is nothing to thank for, as it turned out. Well, how are you there without me? Everything is fine, she answered briefly. What is Vova doing? And what can he do? Probably on his shoulders. School, sports school, computer. The husband whistled, and Veronica didn't like it. Some kind of bad whistling didn't work out no matter what. Sergei had lunch and went to his office. And Veronica nervously pulled her nails in her palm. If someone else was in Sergei's place, it would be much easier. Here, caution is needed. Somehow differently. It's even scary to think about it. Veronica's thoughts were. Without thinking of anything, the young woman in a daze went down to the back of the sofa. And suddenly she heard the quick steps of her husband. Serioza, where are you going? Asked Veronica. I need to go to the main restaurant. The husband replied nervously. The next day, Nikolai woke up in a wonderful mood. A blessed smile was playing on his face, and the entire staff of the restaurant looked at him with surprise. And he was also good, Yekaterina pointed out. Maybe he fell in love? The cook suggested giving the waiter a treat. Who knows him? On the second half of the day, Nikolai's mood was good, and there were no traces left. He waved at the yard when a glossy black SUV entered the restaurant territory and abruptly slowed down. Nikolai barely managed to jump off. Hey, you come to my office. The boss who left the car. Is that me? Nikolai asked. Are you deaf? Veronica did not like the intonation with which the husband answered her question. And in general, he seemed to be angry. The head office. Veronica, full of determination to go after her husband, rushed to the second floor to change clothes. Not to go in a dress. Sergei's office was open on the ground floor. And Veronica, without thinking for a long time, entered it. The laptop was also open. And what Nika saw on the monitor made her heart beat like crazy. This was the scene of the meeting of the ex-husbands years after the breakup. And it was how Nikolai hugs Veronica. But the most disgusting thing is the open safe. Veronica knew that in addition to cash and jewelry, there was a weapon. Now he was not there. "Why are you hugging my wife, you bastard?" Sergei asked without any blunders. "Do you want to be found in the river with a gyron on your leg? Or with a hole in your forehead? I'll organize it for you now, and not a single bastard will look for you." And pointed at Nikolai. "Are you sure, Sergei Petrovich?" Nikolai smiled, looking up at him. "To Kolya? To the kids?" Nikolai, without losing a minute, grabbed the gun from his former friend and business partner. Now he was holding Belov on his ears. He was the one who confirmed Nikolai. "But you, what about me? Did I die in prison?" "As you can see, no." "What do you want?" asked Sergei. "Money? I'll give you a lot of money. As much as you want. Just for God's sake, leave the living." "What the hell did you give up with your money?" Nikolai said in a despicable tone. He took out the very strong belt from his jacket and ordered the chef to sit on the chair. The man sat down, and the young chef began to tie the former companion to the chair, continuing to keep him under the sight. That's how Nikolai said it politely. "Let's talk. But you won't kill me, why?" The cleaner shook his shoulders. "I've been sitting away for years, and I'm not going back." Nikolai took out the dictaphone from his pocket and said, "Well, tell me." "What?" "Well, of course, everything was as it was. And if you lie, then—" And the baby was shocked by the boss's gun. "I've always envied you." Sergei started with a pitiful voice and silently kept silent. "Well, I already understood that. What's next? Who set me up?" "You're a scumbag." Belov nodded. "I have nothing to nod about. Do you think it's the most cunning of all?" "Who set me up?" "Ow. Tell me everything." "I hired hackers and they transferred money from Altair accounts. Then I made an agreement with the setup people." Nikolai listened to Belov's story with a stone-hearted expression. It seemed that he was completely not concerned with what Sergei said. But if he is brought to see someone from his friend in the zone, he will definitely say, "Now the volcano is raging in the soul of this man." Veronica was flying around the city, and it seems even flew over to the red light. Or did she just think so? However, now it did not worry Nick much. If only she could make it in time, she prayed for herself. If only everything went well. Veronica flew into the restaurant. The guard's daughter barely fell asleep, who only said, "Good afternoon, Veronica Evgenyevna." The door to her husband's office was open, and Veronica thought by the way that she had a déjà vu. "There was an unfortunate incident on the transfer," she heard. "It was I who ordered you to kill to get rid of forever, so that history would not rise." "Well, there are good people everywhere. Kolya is alive." "Yes, there are good people everywhere," he repeated. "Even there, so you can use it." Veronica went into the office and gave her husband a frowning look. "Kolya, are you okay?" a young woman asked excitedly. "Quite." He smiled. "You can't be in time. I'm just telling your faithful one why I'm alive, and not feeding the worms at his. So they let me out, and instead of my modest persona, they buried a prisoner who looked like me. So, as you can see, I have the right people among the specific public. No, don't think about that. The poor man died of tuberculosis in a prison hospital." Veronica went down to the chair, covering her face with her hands. "Sergei stole from them years of honor. He stole from Vova's father, and from her beloved man." Nikolai spoke with a happy voice. "The confession of our dear Sergei Petrovich is recorded." The police arrived quickly. The appearance of a former business partner, unexpectedly, who had risen from the dead, broke the business and tough Belov. In the face of the police, Sergei Petrovich began to fight in hysterics. Having listened to the dictaphone recording, the investigator said, addressing Belov, "All you have to do is write a sincere confession." Sergei Belov turned years old, less than Nikolai, but this is quite enough to feel the taste of the zone. And with his insolent character and courage, they will seem eternal. Nikolai received a solid monetary compensation, although there is hardly such a sum that would compensate for years of irrevocably exhausted life. "You are so beautiful," Veronica said in admiration, meeting the former and, at the same time, the future wife of the beauty salon. I'm just jealous of myself. After the plastic surgery, the scar became almost invisible. Veronica said, laughing, that scar is decorated by men. But Nicholas didn't want at least one detail to remind him of the past. The past is far away. Now his happy future. And so far. Well, Veronica turned to him with a smile. Let's go present the personnel to the new director. Let's go. When Nikolai and Veronica entered, a good-natured Hool ran through the meeting room. Now it was difficult for Nikolai to recognize the bum, who had been a cleaner for several months ago. Guys, let me introduce you to the new manager. Nikolai Nikolaevich Malashev, please come and report. Someone was surprised. They had just come to know who would be in charge of them. For example, the one who was in charge of Boris, who, it seems, only yesterday gave Nikolai a uniform and gave him instructions. What to say? Life is an unpredictable thing, Kostya said, or you'll get to know the bosses. He's a busy guy. But that's not all, Veronica said with a smile. The people who were present froze. In a month we have a wedding with Nikolai Nikolaevich. Everyone is invited. The employees applauded without speaking. Veronica Evgenyevna, Nikolai Nikolaevich, congratulations. We are really very happy for you. You are such a beautiful couple. The hall was full of lively and very warm atmosphere, which had never been with the previous owner. It felt like the staff was really happy for Nikolai and Veronica. Only the waitress Katya was a little sad. Such a man, and not about my honor, the girl thought. Apparently, it is really worth looking at Yura. Yura's guard, noticing Katya's look, winked at her. We need to forge the iron while it's hot. But he has long liked it. The new leader came to his subordinate by heart. Nikolai Nikolaevich, who finally got rid of the test that had come to his share, turned out to be an interesting person with a wonderful sense of humor. Nikolai Malashev returned to himself what belonged to him in his right. Love, business, son. But fate returned him happiness with interest. A month after the wedding, Veronica entered his office with some mysterious expression on her face. Kalenka, I need to tell you something. And show it, she said, sitting on her husband's lap. You intrigue me. Nikolai smiled, taking off his glasses. Enough of work for today. And Veronica took out of Hallett's pocket a pregnancy test, which showed 2 stripes. Nika, is this what I'm thinking about? The wife nodded with a smile. Wow, said Nikolai, getting up from the chair and circling around the room. This is the news. When, let's say, Vovka? She asked, looking at her husband with her beautiful, shining blue eyes. Let's be happy today. This news, together, the husband whispered. And let's tell Vovka tomorrow. I know him. He won't be able to sleep later. That's right, too, laughed at Veronica. On this sunny Sunday, Nikolai, Veronica, and their son Vova walked around the city with little Alenka. It was a family weekend ritual, which the kids did not intend to violate. Volodka, on the rights of his older brother, rolled a cart from which a tiny pink face was looking out, and the parents went to hold hands. They passed by an ordinary building where there was a digital board, the same one from which Nikolai's free life began. The head of the happy family looked at the roof of the house and thought that perhaps some other grumpy person had settled there now. And who knows, maybe he, like Nikolai, came from a place not so far away, and it was the board that attracted him. Well, let him be lucky. Nikolai wished happiness to an unknown person. After all, everyone has the right to their place under the sun. Nikolai looked at those who were most dear to him in the world with love, and thought that he had succeeded because he was truly happy. If you like the story, I hope you will not be difficult to support me with the thumb up button. All the best to you.